now, because you are in South Africa, and you said in the very beginning of the interview that and you have seen a great deal of decrease in the refineries shutting down, and the core typical engineering jobs to be going down and down in South Africa, and more people being interested in the non-engineering aspects. If I was to ask you very generally, do you think South Africa has good prospects for chemical engineering as of right now, if we talk about core chemical engineering jobs?
So I think I've also mentioned that the core engineering jobs were in mining or in the petrochemical space. So definitely in the petrochemical space, these are gone down. It's very difficult to find work in that sort of space. There is Sasol, which is, I think, the biggest employer of chemical engineers in the core, petrochemical space at the moment. But even they are looking elsewhere for. The company direction is moving more into the renewable space, or at least that's what they say for now. So we'll see where that takes us. But specifically for core, petrochemical space, that's a no-go. The mining space is still thriving. There's a lot of opportunity to work there, especially in the management of old mines, where you get acid mine drainage, mines which have just been abandoned, and new processing technologies to look at how you can extract more resources from, whatever was spent or whatever was waste at the time. So there is scope over there. But generally, and this is anecdotal, I feel like the industry for the core chemical engineering space has declined. It's much more difficult to find space there. And also, I think I also mentioned that, in my undergraduate degree, there were the options of the streams for pulp and paper processing. So that's also declined. Many of our mills for pulp production have declined, completely shut down as well. So that industry is declining as well.
Okay.
But to a smaller extent, the agricultural side, many of our graduates would end up in the sugar mills. That's also declining, unfortunately.
Yeah, but that is not a very good situation to be in, I guess, when all of your industries are. But that's not just South Africa. I would say, I guess, these industries are kind of decreasing in all around the globe, especially oil and gas. They are all the big companies now. They're moving towards renewability, or at least they're claiming to be moving towards renewability. But if I was to ask you, in your opinion, that now since you have named all these industries that are going down, someone who is graduating with a chemical engineering degree in South Africa, what industries should the students then keep their eye out for and should target those specific industries?
I feel that there is actually no limit to where a chemical engineer can go. Many of the traditionally, the traditional companies for taking commerce students, finance students, and so forth are looking more for chemical engineers. So the big banks, that's definitely a sink for many of our graduates. And the places like KPMG, for example, McKinsey, those consulting firms, even Deloitte or Ernst & Young. So traditionally where you'd have your accountants and economists, economic students at least, they're taking more chemical engineers. So they're expanding more into the ESG space, so environmental, social, and governance space. And they want chemical engineers. So more so than they want their traditional, graduates. So I wouldn't say that there's less scope for our chemical engineering students. I would actually say there's more now, even with the declining core industries. It's still good to do, chemical engineering. Maybe not with the aim of ending up in chemical engineering space, but knowing at least that you will still work as a chemical engineer or process engineer in many different fields here. So, the prospects for that is not gone down. That's only gone up.
Do you think renewability is the next oil and gas sector in the world?
Well, that's a difficult one to say, especially because of electrification in the automotive space. So I think that's going to be one of the biggest things. Biofuels, there's a lot of controversy over there. In Brazil, for example, I think it's about 60%, depending on where you are, is ethanol. So that's biofuel as well. But underneath all of that, you don't see the rainforest being cut down to, to facilitate the production of that ethanol. And in India as well, although they're increasing the amount of ethanol in their fuels, it's not, I wouldn't say it's something that one should focus on for the state of chemical engineering. In South Africa as well, it's very difficult to do that, especially since we have a lot of, there's a great deal of water scarcity where the plantations are at the moment. So it's a very unstable industry. It's declining in general, I mean, across the world as well, as we see more of the effects of climate change. So I wouldn't say that's where people should focus on. However, that's not the only place where renewable fuels are. So in battery production, for electric vehicles, and now there's a lot of scope for hydrogen production, especially from your renewable sources such as photovoltaic cells, using that to perform hydrolysis, as well as wind power and those sort of things. There is scope over there. It's still a very early space to be in if you are there. But that's where we're going. So not so much in the petrochemical space, but more on that type of production. So more on manufacturing, more on research into electrification, hydrogen production, and less so on the biofuel space. There is still scope in the bioproducts space, the finer chemicals, things that can't be produced from petrochemicals anymore, and also things that can be produced, alternatively. Your bioplastics are increasing. We want more biodegradable plastics. So that's a space that's going to be taken up, but not so much the biofuel space.
Okay, perfect. That's very nicely put. Thank you, Muven.
Thank you for listening. And if you have not done so already, remember to become a free member at Chemical Engineering Life. And do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and stay tuned for more upcoming podcasts with chemical engineers. Thank you and have a great day.